Hi there, welcome to the show. Let me begin this particular one with a quote I found. It says, "Don't take for granted each step you take, each time you comb your hair, dress, or even just say hello to a friend, because somewhere, someone with cerebral palsy fights for a chance to complete these tasks with independence." And March happens to be CP Awareness Month, so be aware and show you care. And you can start that by taking notes on this particular show as we host two special guests who will bring more light to this conversation. So stay right there as we begin the show. Special thanks to Radisson Blue Hen Arboretum for hosting us.
I choose not to place this in my ability. I may walk, talk, and move differently than most people, but on the side, I'm not so different.
Hi there, welcome to Unscripted. Like I mentioned earlier, we're having a very important conversation today. And with me today are our special guests. Thank you for coming to the show. Karibuni sana. You're most welcome. I love the colors, Mom. Very nice. So before we begin the conversation, maybe you can introduce yourselves. You can tell us who you are and why you're here today. We can start with you.
Okay. My name is Angelica Wangari Kamoyo. I'm Matthew's mother, and with Matthew I have two other children, two girls, one older, one younger. By profession I'm an accountant, now retired and working from home.
Great.
Yes.
And before we go into why we're here today, and yourself?
My name is Matthew Kamoyo. I work at the Communication Authority of Kenya as intellectual property rights officer. I'm the second born of Angelica. I have an elder sister and a younger sister.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Yes.
Like I'd mentioned in the intro before, this month of March, it's Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. So we're doing our small part in just having a conversation around it, getting a better understanding for ourselves and the viewers at home. And that's why we're honored to have both of you on the show. Mom, maybe you can tell us, when was your son diagnosed with cerebral palsy? How did you find out?
Karungu was diagnosed with cerebral palsy very early. Probably I was warned by the doctor when he was born that he may have, the doctor called it delayed milestones. He didn't tell me that he was going to have cerebral palsy.
From when he was born?
When he was born, and that is because I had a very long and difficult labor. So I think when it was what they call a forceps delivery. They just pulled the baby out because the baby was in distress because of the long labor, and he didn't cry when he was born. So they put him in an incubator, not for too long. I think he cried soon after. But the doctor just warned me that he may have delayed milestones. But when we went home, as fate would have it, my mother came to visit. And she told me that his neck is not holding.
But how old was he at that point?
Around maybe 3-4 months. I think she noticed that the neck was not holding, and it's not normal. And that's when now we went to hospital, and I started hearing now about cerebral palsy, and we started the therapy and exercises. About when he was 6 months.
6 months.
So we started
That's
quite
early,
early,
yeah?
very early, very early.
I mean, hearing that about your son that early on, how was that moment for you, Mom? Did it make sense? What was your reaction?
I think like any other disease that happens to a child, because at that time I didn't even know what cerebral palsy was all about, I thought it will go. We will go see the doctor. We will do the exercises, we will do whatever needs to be done, and it will be maybe for a short while, and then we'll be okay. But as time went on, obviously you realize it becomes a lifestyle. So you start organizing your life around what needs to be done for him, therapy and things like that. And because you really don't know what to expect, you just take it in your stride. That's what I would say. And that's what kept me going, because I wasn't like rushing towards a goal at that particular time.
Maybe we can go back to someone at home who doesn't have an understanding of what cerebral palsy is. What can you tell them it is, and what were the challenges you faced raising your son?
Okay, cerebral palsy affects development in a child, and in very different ways. Any cerebral palsy child is not like the other. Okay. It's not like the deaf. You know, they are deaf. You can handle their issues, you can give them gadgets and whatever. Cerebral palsy tends to affect people very differently. Some have speech issues, some have sight issues, some have movement issues, some have, learning difficulties and things like that. So you just have to work with your child as an individual. And for what I would tell parents is to be very alert. I was probably lucky because Karungu is a second-born. So I had a first-born who I could see and compare, kind of, yeah, this happened to this one at this time, something is not right, or something like that. So other than that is make sure at the clinics you ask as many questions as you can. Be curious about whether the child is developing properly or not. And especially in today's world where they give you information. At our time, I can tell you 37 or 36 years ago, the doctors told you nothing. Until there was no internet, there was no whatever, so you just walked, you saw another parent with a similar situation, you talked a bit and try and figure it out. So I think being alert and being very conscious about what your children are doing, watching them, observing them, will give you a head start in knowing when there are issues. In terms of how to handle the cerebral palsy child, I think the doctor you're seeing and the therapist that you're seeing will make a program. Like I said, each child is very different, so you have to have a program for them. Now, what I did for Karungu, because I was a full-time mom, I got somebody to be coming home to do therapy for him from early on. I know in the initial stages I used to go take him. It was quite hectic. By lunch hour, instead of going for lunch, you go run home, take him for therapy, and then come back. But as time developed, as time went on, I got somebody to be coming home. He also went to boarding school at what age? 9 years. 9 years.
He went to boarding?
He had to, because he was mainly affected with movement. And most of the schools could not accommodate him. Then we tried several schools. A lot of them were for mental handicaps. And
they didn't know how to handle.
Or yeah, they didn't know how to handle him, or transport was an issue. But finally, I got a school called Treeside, which was for mental, people with learning disabilities. And one of the teachers there was very good and told me that he's not going to benefit from that school because their curriculum teaches the children how to be around, how to cross the road, how to count money and things like that. They really don't have an academic program because of the nature of the children they take. So she told me probably the easiest school for Karungu would be a place where they have physical disability with a special unit so that they can handle his disability. Yeah. Because he wasn't slow, things like that. So he ended up at Joytown, a school which had a special unit.
So they would take good care of him, yet he would still get
he would still get the therapy. He's still there. They have facilities for physically handicapped, because now you couldn't put Karungu on a matatu to go to school or on a bus because he needed to be assisted. So movement for me was a major issue. So he ended up in boarding school at 9 and went all the way to, which age? I think from class 8. Class 8.
How was that like for you though? For mom and also for him, being away from him, and you know, you're the one.
A lot of anxiety, but also I think I was very clear that some of the things they can do for him there, I cannot. Like hospital care, therapy care, because they have full-time therapists who then take care of the children. Because he actually moved from Joytown to a school in Olkalau, run by some nuns, called Olkalau School for the Disabled at that time. And they were attached to Kinagop Hospital, which is almost a specialist hospital.
So it was a sacrifice for the...
So I think it was just a trade-off. And I remember that teacher asking me a very interesting question. She asked me, if God was to call you today, which of your children would be easiest to look after?
Wow, what did you say?
So I said it would be the girls, because the girls were okay. So I said, who do you think, she's asked me then, who do you think should be more independent? And I let go. I let go, and she was, I think she told me something that made me be able to handle what was going to come for Karungu, because keeping him at home, I wasn't helping him a lot. One of the positive things about Karungu was that he got a lot of like toilet training and things like that very early, because that's what you have issues with house help and things like that. So I didn't have that problem.
That all happened at the school?
No. Even before he went to school, he was fully toilet trained and things like that. So he was a normal child in very many ways. I didn't have those issues. I think my biggest challenge was what interventions I could be done for him that I could not do at home. Yeah.
Which the school handled well.
Which the school handled well. And then, of course, I think he stayed 3 years at the special unit, and then they realized he can move on to the normal curriculum, and he started his class 1. Obviously, he finished a bit late than everybody else, but he was able to go all the way to class 8, and then he then came home and went to Kestromena School and did the 4 years of high school. And then after that, we had to, now another struggle came in, because you can't throw him into a normal university.
I understand. Before we go into that, maybe Karungu, you can tell us, before we go on a break, how was the school experience for you?
It taught me how to be independent and to take care of myself, to take care of my items at school, and to socialize with other children.
With other children. I'm looking forward to hearing more of that. Do stay right there. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Before the break, Karungu was telling us how school life was for him. You learned how to be independent, how to socialize. I'm curious to know, even from mom, you can share, how was it socializing, making friends? Was there also stigma involved from family or the public? What was that like? Any of you? Maybe Karungu can start then, mom?
In the family, there wasn't stigma, because all my uncles and aunties understood me, and I was going everywhere with them.
That's good.
I wasn't left home.
That's good.
Yes.
And I'm sure that was very encouraging for you. What did that do for you, knowing that you're welcome and you're part of the family? For those at home who, we hear of stories where you're hidden or you're kept away, what did that do for you?
To know that even though I have cerebral palsy, I can be out there socializing with other people instead of stayed at home. Yes.
How was it, Mom? For you?
I think for me, let me say, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Maybe if somebody had told me very early what life would turn out to be, I may have done things I should not have done. But for me, Karungu was just another child of mine.
Good.
So wherever we went, we went. If we couldn't go, all of us, we didn't go. So even the sisters knew that he's part of our life and we have to go with him. I didn't face any stigma, partly because maybe where it would have come from. We are a very close-knit family. And so I didn't face any stigma. I only remember maybe you go to church, people are looking at you, but you learn to live with it. Because they wouldn't dare ask you anything. That's a good thing about it. If somebody is asking you, it's because they are concerned. Most of the people will talk and they will not, and I keep saying what you don't hear won't affect you. So through life, I think even when Karungu grew, he's in between two sisters. And they used to go out with him. They would go for rugby, they would go for whatever.
Oh, that's good.
So his confidence has really never been affected so long as he was a young person. I don't know, he can talk for himself about growing up because I think people are not kind to each other. But growing up, I think he didn't feel not normal. There are certain things he could not do and he knew he could not do them, but I don't think we made him feel different from us. There's one time we went to a restaurant, I can't remember, and I wouldn't want to say what restaurant it was. So what we would do is, just to make sure he walks, we would get out of the car, go choose a table, and he would come along. He didn't have a wheelchair then, he was on crutches. So he would then come in. So we were sitting here observing him, and he's coming, and somebody, I think, thought he was coming to beg.
Oh.
The guy at the reception, so he quickly came and gave him a 10 bob or something like that. And it was quite a high-end, not a small restaurant.
Oh, no.
So I told him, can you just take that back to him? So Karungu walked and gave it back to him. Many other times people are very appreciative. I've been to restaurants when somebody sees me and they are just wowed and pay the bill. Just because they've seen you. I remember one time I picked him from school with a friend of his and had these two children with me and went for lunch, and somebody was just observing us and he said, I am so impressed, I want to pay for this bill. So I think I got a mixture of both. Most of the people who talked is because they thought that we were doing the best we can. They were actually to compliment us. Those who had anything else to say, they didn't say it to me.
As a mom, did you have any fears raising Karungu?
Yes, like any child, you are fearing for tomorrow because you don't know what it will be like. With a normal child, you take them to a good school.
It still happens with our normal children having
yeah,
fears,
but
yes.
Unless they become naughty and they are not working and not doing well in school, you have an idea of where they'll end up. They will go through school and they'll go through university if they want, up to where they want. All you need to do is probably put them in the right place. With Karungu, first of all, the right place was very difficult to get because, like I said, with multiple disabilities, there were no schools for them. So you struggle with what school to put him through. Then you don't know. Now, from one school to another, you go to high school, you can't get schools for them. You go to university, it's even worse. So we ended up doing university from home. So yes, there are fears. Even today, I still worry about him. The sisters are married. They've got their own families. I don't know what is tomorrow for him. I don't know how long I'll be in this world. He's been with me all this time. So there's always that anxiety. Yeah, and that would be for any child and for any mother, but more so for him. I think also, I would say, society, I think, did not expect these children to grow to this age. So there are a lot of things that are done for children. not for grown-up cerebral palsy. I don't think we have more than 50 of them that I know that have reached Karungu's age.
I see.
So you find the world like ends at a certain stage. I remember when Karungu finished Joytown, and he didn't finish. When he moved from the special unit in Joytown to the normal school, there is a father who was told that they can do nothing more for the son. And that man cried and asked me, Mama Karungu, where am I going to take this child? Because he can't go to vocational school, he can't go to normal school now, so what will I do with him?
What did you do with Karungu?
You see, he went through school and went all the way to class 8. I was lucky, I would say. But what I'm saying, beyond a certain age, you almost find there's nothing for them. And for me, I think I would really urge whoever has programs for special needs and things like that to go beyond, to consider the grown-up child and what they would do. For instance, now, Karungu has been with me home for a long time. I would like him to be able to live independently, but he can't live on his own. He's now moved out of home. He's got a house where he works.
Congratulations.
But you had to now look for how is he going to live there.
So how do you keep, there's someone with him?
There's someone with him for now, yes. And like any other person who is, there's no permanency because you don't know whether they will cope or they'll not cope and things like that. So anxiety doesn't end for mothers. I'm sure even your mother worries about it.
To date, and I worry about my children as well.
Yeah, but by and large, I would say Karungu's cerebral palsy was mild because there are also degrees. There are children who can do nothing for themselves. They can't go to school. They can't do anything. A lot of them, they waste away, especially for cerebral palsy because of muscular, whatever. If you don't do the therapy, around the age of 15, 16, 18, they pass on because they are too heavy to carry now. They can't walk on their own. So movement, the quality of life deteriorates and movement deteriorates.
How are you feeling now when you see him, how far you've come, 36
I'm very, very, very proud of him. Very, very proud of him. He's a very positive person and he's a very pleasant person. He makes more friends than I can.
Wow.
And for that, I think that has kept us going. That on his own, to upset Karungu, you really have to have done something. Terrible. So I know he can get along with people. And that helps because that's now his world. It's not my world anymore. The fact that he's able to get along with people will be a positive for him. It's been rewarding knowing that every step he takes, you don't go backwards. It's the beauty of them. Once they learn a skill, then it can't be unlearned. They take long to learn what needs to be learned, but once they learn, they learn. And progressively, I would say I'm proud of Karungu.
I'd love to hear that. Before we go on a break, what can you tell a mom watching who is probably overwhelmed, with her child, doesn't know where to turn? How can you encourage her today?
I think there are groups that she can turn to. Some are organized, some are not organized. Most hospitals have sections or areas for cerebral palsy children. I know Kenyatta National Hospital has. Most of the hospitals have. Aga Khan has a good clinic. I think the challenge is it's an expensive exercise, and I must say we were blessed that I was able to do quite a lot for him, even have a therapist who can come.
Exactly.
Because
some many can afford
even
that.
Traveling can be a problem. I always feel if we had centers where you can leave this child and they are safe for the day, then I can go and work and come and pick the child in the evening. I think that would go a long way. Because leaving these children at home with house help, who has other things to do and other children to look after, you're already, it can be a challenge. So for every mother that has a child like this, is try and do the best you can for that child. Look around and see whether you can network with other people. When you go to hospital, see whether there are networks of people you can use and see if you can team up around yourselves to take care of the children, a support system. Because if you live with them, you'll go mad. Because, you know, they are a full-time job. You have something else to do. If you never have a break to speak to somebody else, I was lucky I used to work. So my day work was day work, and then evening we all come home. And the security of these children, I think, is foremost in any mother's mind. If I leave this child at home, are they going to be mistreated? What's going to happen? Are they going to be able to tell me what happened to them during the day and things like that? That's a fear somebody always have. But I always find talking to other parents helps. And in today's world, I think there are better forums. I would say it's a different world from the world we lived in. Because even you can reach out on the internet or whatever. I've seen he's in a group of Embrace Cerebral Palsy, which has mothers and some champions like them, a few of them. I think there are 3 grown-up CP children. The rest are mothers. And they share a lot.
Even this, having this conversation here, I hope has helped a mother at home. On that note, we'll be right back. Do stay right there. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Before the break, you were both sharing how, as much as it's been a journey, it's also been very, very rewarding, especially for mom. Karungo, I'd like to hear how, so you not only went to school, you beat the odds and you finished high school, went to university, even have a master's, and you have a great job at the Communications Authority. Tell me about that journey, if you could.
I started college in 2007. I started with standard diploma in business management at the dark center. I did 1 year, then I proceeded to advance diploma in business management for a year. Then I advanced now to what I want to do. I did GD, graduate diploma in entrepreneurship and small business management. So when I finished my third year with the help of my mom, I was able to secure internship at the CCK, Communication Commission of Kenya. I did it for 3 months. Then they told me, Karungo, we've liked your work. Go get your bachelor's. Then you write to us. So I went and got adult analysis and I wanted something called credit transfer. It was taken to Business School of Costa Rica.
Great. But how, if you don't mind, if I could take you back, how was it in that moment when you were told, Karungo, you have the job? How did that moment feel like for you, and also mom? I'd like to hear how mom felt in that moment.
It was great, and it was so exciting because I had stayed a long while without getting a job.
And you worked very hard.
Yes.
And you, mom, how did you feel knowing what your son has achieved?
I think for me it was a good opportunity. Communications Authority of Kenya, I think, has an affirmative action program. So just getting the internship was a big thing for me. And my hope then was that Karungo will prove himself so that they can then give him the job after he finishes. And they did. So I think I would say it was a proud moment.
It was a proud moment.
Yeah, just to say also where he did his university, they had a program where he works, he goes to school like 2 days. The rest of the assignments are done at home. And that helped because obviously, like I said, movement was always an issue for him. And that particular university had that facility so that most of the work was done from home with the teachers' correspondence and things like that. And you only had now to go to school like 3 days a week or something like that for a few hours. So that eased his movement because you don't have to go in every day. And that's how he managed to get through college. Fantastic. Again, that's a program now is probably available with all this online learning.
Yes.
At that time, I think it's only that particular university that had that non-class programs.
I see. Karungo, I'm curious to know what drives you to get up each day and achieve the next thing. What drives you?
Hope.
Hope.
For tomorrow.
Hope for tomorrow. I like that. What is your next big ambition as Karungo? What can we expect from you next?
It will come at its own time.
It will come at its own. That's all you're telling me for now. Yeah. And for you, Mom, what has kept you encouraged, hopeful, motivated through the years raising him?
I think it's just the little wins and achievements that we get. So you know that the battle is not lost. You know, to move from one stage to another, I think is good. And he's taught us a lot of patience. You can't rush things. I guess that's what he's trying to say. What is next? We don't know what is next. So just living almost one day at a time with him has taught me a lot of patience. And I just hope that whatever God has in store for him will come in its own good time. Yeah, so I don't think you can plan too much.
Yeah.
You just wait, do what you can, and hope that
what
is supposed to happen will happen.
And that is very wise. I think 2020 taught all of us that.
Yeah.
To just trust in God, slow down and
patient.
And be patient.
Yeah, because if you're going to take 10 minutes to go somewhere, you have to allow yourself an extra 10 minutes if you're with him. That's something we all had to learn. If you're going to hop into a car, you have to know you have to fold your wheelchair, he will not walk fast, things like that. So just learning to be patient, I think, is something that I've learned bringing
Karungo up. And in everything, we go through in life, there's always a lesson and something to be grateful for. What are you grateful for as mom?
First, I'm very grateful that Karungo, health-wise, has no issues.
Good.
He's probably healthier than most of my other children.
Really?
Except for his particular disability.
I see.
He's a very healthy person. So I'm really grateful for that. That he was spared all the other little illnesses. Okay. I'm also grateful that he's been alive this long.
Yeah.
It's a big example to parents behind me who have children with cerebral palsy, that they can actually grow to be grown-ups. And I guess I'm grateful that he's part of our life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And yourself?
Part of our life.
Yourself, Karungo, what are you grateful for?
For my life, from into reach up to 36 years.
Imagine.
And for good health.
You're grateful?
Yes.
There could be someone at home now watching Karungo who is like you, and they don't know if they'll get to 36. They're looking at you and they're like, wow. What can you tell that person?
There is a future and for people with disability.
That's
and
true.
Even to the parents, encourage them by going everywhere.
Okay.
with your child, not to leave them at home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe just one thing I would say, with cerebral palsy, therapy is a lifelong
I see.
thing. It doesn't stop.
To be mentally prepared for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
even if you don't exercise, you will deteriorate.
What is the
It doesn't
therapy
matter.
like?
It's what the muscle tone and things like that, because that's one of the biggest problems, at least for Karungo's side of cerebral palsy.
All right.
So you can't do it and stop. It has to be all
Continuous.
the time, all the time. Yeah. So, yeah, your physiotherapist or occupational therapist is your partner and friend for life.
For life.
We still do it even now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you have, as we, like I said in the beginning, this is the month of cerebral palsy awareness, where we, you know, and as little as we can, we are taking the message out there to let people know that it exists, and people can get to, can be like Karungo and get to 36 and achieve so much. So if there's any special message you can give, what would that be?
I think I'll tell them, God never gives you what you can't handle. If you've got a sleepy child, take care of them the best way you can. The best way you can, get as much help as you can, get as much professional help and medical advice as you can. And I believe if we do our part, God will do the rest.
Yeah. And for you, as we finish, what message can you give?
This is to parents who have cerebral palsy children, not to give up on their children. They have a long life ahead of them.
Thank you so much. I feel like you guys have come and brought hope into this room. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm definitely feeling the hope and the encouragement. To anyone at home who may be in a similar situation, I think they're an example that there is hope and there is a future. So be encouraged, be encouraged. And like he said, he kept saying it, don't hide your child. Show them to the world. Let them feel as loved and as normal as they can be. Thank you for making time for us. Do take care of yourselves. Have a good night. God bless. We'll see you next week. And special thanks to our lovely location, Radisson. Goodbye.